Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Finally, Princess Bai Yao withdrew her gaze and sat the Emperor's left side. But her pair of beautiful eyes that were tender like water still couldn't help from sneaking a peek at Duan Ling Tian occasionally. The handsome face that she longed for and had appeared many times during her dreams at night had now really appeared before her eyes once again. It caused her feelings to unstably rise and fall, and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Presently, Duan Ling Tian and Princess Bai Yao respectively sat at a side of the Emperor, and when looked at from far, they were simply like a match made in heaven. At this moment, everything in the surroundings seemed to be overshadowed by them. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised and his calm gaze descended onto the robust middle-aged man, and he thought in his heart, "He's the ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom?" Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian looked at the other three people by the side of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador. These were their young men, and the oldest was around 35 years old. The youngest was also almost 30. Presently, the burning gazes of the three had shot at Princess Bai Yao, and it seemed as if they were rooted to her. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into disdain when he saw this. These were the three young geniuses of the Sun Ascent Kingdom? Not mentioning anything else. But as far as Duan Ling Tian was concerned, it would be difficult for these three people to have any great accomplishments in their lives with this level of composure. The youngest young man by the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador's side looked at the Emperor as he said slightly impatiently, "Respected Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, now that everyone is here, can the friendly martial competition between our Sun Ascent Kingdom and the young geniuses of your Crimson Sky Kingdom begin? I'm already impatient to experience the ability of your Crimson Sky Kingdom's young geniuses." The Emperor hadn't spoken yet when another young man around the age of 32 or 33 that was beside the previous young man couldn't help but laugh as he said, "It looks to me that wanting to experience the ability of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's young geniuses is fake, and wanting to show off before the beautiful princess is your real motive, right? Could it be that you don't want to?" The form snorted coldly and wasn't courteous in the slightest towards his companion. "Your strength is the weakest amongst the three of us. Let me see how you lose face before the beautiful princess." The latter's tone was filled with ridicule. "Since the Sun Ascent Kingdom's young geniuses are already impatient, then I declare that friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of my Crimson Sky Kingdom and the Sun Ascent Kingdom officially begins." The Emperor had a calm expression as he slowly announced. Swoosh. The Emperor had just finished speaking when the youngest young man of the Sun Ascent Kingdom flashed out to stand in the empty ground in the middle of the banquet tables. Zhang Mu's gaze swept past the young geniuses at the various banquet tables. Then he slowly spoke with a tone that contained an intent to provoke. "I'm Zhang Mu. I've heard since long ago that the experts in the Crimson Sky Kingdom are numerous like the clouds. Who's willing to come provide me with some guidance? I'll meet you in battle." A Su clan disciple around the age of 27 or 28 that was by the Su clan's patriarch's side flew out to stand in confrontation with Zhang Mu. Crimson Sky Kingdom, Su clan, Su E. The Su clan disciple nodded to Zhang Mu then spoke slowly. "Although it's the first time I've come to the Crimson Sky Kingdom, I've still heard of your Su clan since I arrived at the Imperial City, and I know that the Su clan is one of the three great clans of the Imperial City. Today, let me experience the strength of a Su clan disciple. Sorry for the offense." As Zhang Mu spoke, his figure flashed out with an imposing aura that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Swoosh. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a cannonball that flew straight towards Su E. In the sky, 100 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. 7th level origin core stage. Su Yi's face went pale when he saw this. Obviously, Zhang Mu's strength had exceeded his expectations. Su Yi's face sank. He raised his hand and directly withdrew a spirit sword from the sheath on his waist, then directly swung out it. Instantly, 70 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky. Then another 13 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared via the amplification of the spirit sword. 5th level origin core stage, grade 8 spirit sword. Swish. His sword tore through the sky, seeming to have transformed into a venomous serpent that fiercely bit towards Zhang Mu. This sword strike contained the strength of 83 ancient mammoths. Futile effort. Jia Mu had a disdainful expression when he saw this. Then his figure flashed out to easily dodge Su Yi's sword strike. Bang! Jia Mu smashed out with his fist with a large movement, and in an instant, it descended onto Su Yi's chest like a sledgehammer smashing down, blasting Su Yi flying. Kacha! An ear-piercing sound of bones breaking suddenly sounded out, and it was extremely clear. Su Yi was like an arrow that left the bow as he flew out before fiercely falling onto the ground and fainting. The Su clan's patriarch, Su Bo Yu's face went gloomy, and he hurriedly went to check on Su Yi's injuries. He never imagined that the Sun Ascent Kingdom's members would be so ruthless. A 7th-level Origin Core Stage martial artist going against a 5th-level Origin Core Stage martial artist, yet being so ruthless was truly a lack of graceful bearing. Duan Ling Tian's brows frowned slightly as he felt the members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom had gone too far, not holding back, when thwarting someone whose 2 levels of cultivation weaker than oneself was truly infuriating. This is called a friendly martial competition? If someone didn't know it, they would think that the scene from before was a battle between enemies. At this moment, besides Duan Ling Tian, MOU, the Divine Might Marquis, and the Emperor, everyone else present from the Crimson Sky Kingdom had angry expressions. The Sun Ascent Kingdom was going too far in bullying the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Seeming to have noticed the atmosphere of the scene, the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador stood up in a timely manner and fiercely glared at Jia Mu. Jia Mu, it's only a friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of our Sun Ascent Kingdom and the Crimson Sky Kingdom today. How can you be so ruthless? Quickly apologized to the Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. However, everyone present had good sense. How could they not discern that although the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador spoke in this way, his eyes contained slight complacency mixed within? Yes, Lord Ambassador. Jia Mu didn't get angry from being reprimanded, but instead smiled, then looked at the Emperor and cupped his hands. Your Majesty of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, Jia Mu had attacked too heavily earlier. I'm sorry. There's no harm. The Emperor waved his hand and had a carefree expression as he spoke slowly. Injuries can't be avoided when sparring and competing in the martial arts. It's all right so long as lives remain unharmed. Your Majesty of the Crimson Sky Kingdom is wise. Jia Mu grinned. Then his infatuated gaze flashed past Princess Bai Yao before turning around and speaking provocatively. Next, I wonder which young genius of the Crimson Sky Kingdom will be generous with advice. Friends below the 7th level of the Origin Core Stage, please don't come over and waste time. As he finished speaking, disdain flashed within Jia Mu's eyes. Allow me. Jia Mu's actions had drawn the joint rage of everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom since long ago. At this moment, a young man around the age of 30 walked out from the side of the Duan clan, and he looked at Jia Mu with an arrogant expression. Remember it properly. The one that defeated you today is I, Duan Sheng. Duan Sheng? Humph. From today onwards, change your name to Duan Bai. Jia Mu snorted coldly. Then he flashed out to battle Duan Sheng. In the end, Jia Mu defeated Duan Sheng before Duan Sheng utilized his spirit weapon, and he smashed apart a few of Duan Sheng's bones. Although Duan Sheng was at the 7th level of the Origin Core Stage, he'd obviously only broken through a while ago. Moreover, his live combat experience was far inferior to Jia Mu, and he'd only gone against Jia Mu for 10 moves before being defeated by the flaw that Jia Mu revealed intentionally. From today onwards, you're Duan Bai. Jia Mu laughed loudly, and he was extremely arrogant, with a manner as if no one was able to compete with him. The Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua, had only just given Duan Sheng a gold injury pill when he heard Jia Mu, and his face sank instantly. In the next moment, he abruptly raised his head and looked at Duan Ling Tian, who sat by the Emperor's side, and his voice transmission contained slight rage mixed within. Little Tian, avenge Duan Sheng. Don't worry, Patriarch. He won't be jumping around for long. Duan Ling Tian nodded to Duan Ruhua and replied via voice transmission. I'll meet you in battle. A cold shout sounded out, and a person flashed out from the Shao clan's banquet table. It was precisely an acquaintance of Duan Ling Tian, Xiao Yu. Who are you? Jia Mu looked at Xiao Yu and asked with an arrogant expression. Under the gazes of everyone, he'd successively won 2 battles to bring honor to his kingdom, and such an accomplishment in battle had caused him to be extremely complacent. You'll naturally know if you defeat me. Xiao Yu had a frosty expression as he spoke coolly. This fellow is acting cool again. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled when he saw this scene. His gaze was dreamy, as if he'd recalled the scene from a few years ago when he saw Xiao Yu for the first time in the Aurora City's Hidden Dragon List gathering. At that time, Xiao Yu was cold like this. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse that laid on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder and slept since they started their journey to the Imperial Palace had awoken. The instant she opened her eyes, she saw the pile of good food before her eyes. Then she flashed out to stand on the table before directly nibbling on the various good food on the table. What a cute little gold mouse. Because of Duan Ling Tian's existence, Princess Baiyao didn't have much interest towards the friendly martial competition, and now when she saw a fluffy little gold mouse flash down from Duan Ling Tian's shoulder, her beautiful eyes that were tender like water emitted a wisp of tender affection. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse heard Princess Baiyao. Then she winked at Princess Baiyao for a while before continuing to lower her head and nibble on the good food on the table. What an intelligent little gold mouse. Princess Baiyao's eyes lit up when she saw this scene, as it was the first time she'd seen such an intelligent pet mouse. Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto the even ground before him. Presently, Jiamu had burst into rage when facing the cold expression Xiao Yu. Then his body flashed out like a cannonball as his powerful fist struck out, bearing down menacingly. Xiao Yu stood on the spot when facing Jiamu's attack, and he had a calm expression as he stood there unmoving like a mountain. Sleeve dimension? Before Xiao Yu made a move, Duan Ling Tian felt this scene to be slightly familiar, and his brows couldn't help but raise. The facts proved that Duan Ling Tian's guess was correct. Sleeve dimension. Xiao Yu attacked by swinging out his sleeve, and his sleeve expanded before sweeping out to intercept Jiamu's powerful punch. Bang! Jiamu's punch that flashed out like a cannonball smashed onto Xiao Yu's sleeve, yet he felt as if he's hit a ball of cotton, and there was utterly no place to exert force. Jiamu, use your spirit weapon. Right at this moment, the expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador went grim, and he hurriedly warned Jiamu via voice transmission. He'd perceived that the martial skill Xiao Yu had executed now was extraordinary. Jiamu's face became grim when he heard the warning from the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, and he hurriedly withdrew his hand to shoot it like a bolt of lightning to grab towards his waist, wanting to withdraw the sheathed spirit saber there. But would he be in time? Humph. At practically the instant Jiamu withdrew his hand, Xiao Yu's sleeve expanded once again and swiftly flashed out, and before Jiamu could withdraw his saber, it was like a shadow that followed Jiamu to smash onto his body, and it was as if it had predicted he would do this. Ah! Jiamu let out a shrill cry that completely suppressed the sound of his bones breaking, and he flew out to fall onto the ground in a sorry state. After he fell to the ground, the intense pain caused Jiamu to roll around on the ground as cold sweat flowed out of his body. Xiao Yu victorious. Good. Instantly, many people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom cheered, especially the Shao clan's patriarch, and a smile appeared on his face. Earlier, no matter if it was the Su clan or the Duan clan, their disciples had fought Jiamu, yet suffered a crushing defeat. Xiao Yu defeating Jiamu had undoubtedly brought great honor to the Shao clan. Haha, good. The emperor revealed a smile as well. Although he'd always maintained his composure earlier, as if he was extremely indifferent to victory or defeat, every time the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were defeated, disappointment couldn't help but emerge in his heart. Now that Xiao Yu had defeated the young genius of the Sun Ascent Kingdom, it caused him to feel that it brought honor to him as well. What's your name? The emperor looked at Xiao Yu as he asked. Your Majesty, I'm Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu's face didn't have the coldness from before when facing the emperor, and he was respectful and reverent. Your Majesty, Xiao Yu is a good friend of mine. Duan Ling Tian looked at the emperor as he said via voice transmission. He did this because he undoubtedly hoped that the emperor would value Xiao Yu even more. This was extremely crucial to Xiao Yu's future. Xiao Yu was his friend, and he hoped that Xiao Yu would be able to accomplish something of his own in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. The Emperor's eyes squinted when he heard Duan Ling Tian's voice transmission, then glanced deeply at Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu, I've remembered you. I'll properly reward you once the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of my Crimson Sky Kingdom and the Sun Ascent Kingdom ends. Thank you, Your Majesty. Xiao Yu hurriedly replied with an expression of being overwhelmed by the sudden favor. Unlike Duan Ling Tian, although Xiao Yu's natural talent in the martial Dao wasn't bad, it was merely limited to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Duan Ling Tian's future wasn't something that could be restrained by the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Whereas if nothing unexpected happened, Xiao Yu was bound to spend his entire life in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. In Xiao Yu's eyes, the Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom was a supreme existence. Now that an existence like this wanted to reward him, it caused him to be pleasantly surprised, yet also terrified. This disciples of the Shao clan is extraordinary indeed. Most importantly, he's still young, and he still has a large space for improvement. He's much stronger than the disciples of the Su clan and the Duan clan. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador looked at Xiao Yu as a cold light flashed deep within his eyes, and a false smile hung on his face as he spoke slowly. These words were obviously trying to drive a wedge between the clans. Ambassador, these words are mistaken. Right when the face of the Su clan and Duan clan's patriarchs went grim, Xiao Yu glanced calmly at the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador. The Su clan and the Duan clan are similar to our Shao clan. They're amongst the 3 great clans of the imperial city, and the experts in their clans are numerous like the clouds. No matter if it is the Su clan or the Duan clan, they both have a young genius that I'm ashamed of my inferiority to. Moreover, the ages of those young geniuses aren't older than me. Xiao Yu spoke slowly. Brother Xiao Yu, your words are going too far. Your current age is at most around 25. The Su clan and the Duan clan actually have young geniuses that are younger than you, yet possess a strength that surpasses you. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador obviously didn't believe him. Regardless of if you believe it or not, the one from the Su clan has already left the Imperial Kingdom to wander about a few years ago. Before he left, he far surpassed me in both natural talent and strength. As for the one from the Duan clan, I think that Lord Ambassador will be able to see him really soon. As Xiao Yu finished speaking, he stopped for a moment, and his gaze unnoticeably flanked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. He naturally was able to guess who the 2 people Xiao Yu was speaking of. Su clan, Su Li. The young sword cultivator he and Xiao Yu had got to know at the Iron Blood Army's genius camp when they were young, and who had later on entered the Imperial City's Paladin Academy with them and became good friends with them. But unfortunately, destiny makes a fool of people, causing Su Li to be forced to have to leave in the end, and there was no news of him until now. But one thing could be confirmed: before Su Li left, he did indeed far surpass Xiao Yu in both strength and natural talent. As for the Duan clan, Duan Ling Tian naturally was able to guess that Xiao Yu was talking about him. The unsightly expression of the Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ru Hua, eased up. Then he glanced at Duan Ling Tian, and he emitted a wisp of a smile. Right, my Duan clan's young genius isn't inferior to the disciples of any clan. He believed that even if it was those great clans of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, they might not possess a young genius that could compare to Duan Ling Tian's natural talent in the martial Dao. A bitter smile appeared on the corners of the Su clan's patriarch, Su Bo Ya's mouth. He was naturally able to guess that the young genius of the Su clan that Xiao Yu spoke of was Su Li, but could Su Li still be considered to be a disciple of the Su clan? He couldn't help but sigh with emotion in his heart. Then I'll wait and see. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador glanced indifferently at Xiao Yu. Then he looked at the other young man. Ha-e, go experience the ability of this brother Xiao Yu. Remember to hold back. Don't cripple him by accident. Duan Ling Tian frowned slightly. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador had said the word crippled with emphasis, and his ulterior motive could be seen from this. Yes, Lord Ambassador. Ha-e, who was called upon by the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, was precisely the young man that had argued with Jiamu earlier, and he who possessed a robust figure walked out in large strides that gave others a type of shapeless pressure. Duan Ling Tian's eyes slightly squinted when he saw Xiao Yu itching to have a try, and his spiritual force swept out to envelop Ha-e. 9th level Origin Core Stage. Duan Ling Tian confirmed Hai Yi's cultivation at the first possible moment. Brother Xiaoyu, I'm extremely happy that you defeated Jia Mu. If it was at a normal time, I'd surely drink a few cups of wine with you. But now that the Lord Ambassador has spoken, I have no choice but to fight you. Hai Yi stood to confront Xiaoyu and grinned. His snow-white teeth was set off by his dark skin to seem exceptionally conspicuous. Xiaoyu glanced deeply at Hai Yi. Since you're so straightforward, then I'm not an insensible person as well. I admit defeat. Admit defeat. Besides Duan Ling Tian, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned when Xiaoyu said this. They obviously had never imagined that Xiaoyu would make such a decision. They were extremely bewildered. A moment ago, Xiaoyu had an expression of being itching to try. At this moment, how did he suddenly change so quickly? Right when most of the people present still hadn't recovered from their shock, Xiaoyu had already returned to the side of the Xiao clan's patriarch. When faced with the questions of the Xiao clan's patriarch, Xiaoyu replied via voice transmission. Patriarch, this Sun Ascent Kingdom's Ha Yi is a 9th-level origin core stage martial artist. The Xiao clan's patriarch's face went grim when he heard this. I thought the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were extraordinary, but I never expected that they were only people that ran away in the face of battle. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador's face sank when he saw Xiaoyu admit defeat, and he couldn't help but mock. I know my own limitations. I'm not a match for a 9th-level origin core stage martial artist. Xiaoyu glanced deeply at Ha Yi before speaking slowly. You? How did you know? Ha Yi's face went grim, and he was slightly moved. He knew that he'd never fought since arriving at the Crimson Sky Kingdom, and logically speaking, there ought to be no one that knew of his true cultivation. Now that it was revealed by Xiaoyu, he just couldn't wrap his head around it no matter how he thought. The face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador sank, and he glared at Ha Yi while saying via voice transmission, Ha Yi, you were there when I taught Galu a lesson for revealing his first-level nascent soul stage cultivation beforehand. I warned you repeatedly to not reveal your cultivation before today, yet this is what you promised me. Obviously, as far as the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador was concerned, it was surely Ha Yi who'd exposed his cultivation beforehand. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the people of the Crimson Sky Kingdom to find out about Ha Yi's cultivation. Lord Ambassador, I never fought since I arrived at the Crimson Sky Kingdom. I've never revealed my cultivation. Ha Yi replied via voice transmission with a tone filled with grievance. 9th level of the Origin Core Stage. Xiaoyu's words had already caused everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom to be greatly shocked, and when they noticed the unsightly expression of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, they completely confirmed it. It would seem that the second person from the Sun Ascent Kingdom was a 9th-level origin core stage martial artist. Instantly, the disciples from the 3 great clans that were itching to try went pale, and their butts that had just been raised sat down once again, not daring to make a rash move again. What a joke. A 9th-level origin core stage martial artist was utterly not something they could go against. Now, they felt slightly lucky. Lucky that Xiaoyu exposed Hai Yi's cultivation. Otherwise, they would surely come to no good end. Duan Ling Tian looked at this scene before him with a calm expression. The reason Xiaoyu had admitted defeat was entirely because he'd just notified Xiaoyu of Hai Yi's exact cultivation via voice transmission. Xiaoyu trusted Duan Ling Tian exceptionally, and he didn't doubt Duan Ling Tian's words in the slightest and directly admitted defeat. This caused the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador's plan to teach Xiaoyu a lesson to fail. 9th-level Origin Core Stage. For a time, the gazes of the members of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's 3 great clans had all descended in unison onto Nia Fun, who was at the Divine Might Marquis Estate's banquet table. Nia Fun, the junior marquis of the Divine Might Marquis Estate, possessed a cultivation at the 9th level of the Origin Core Stage. As far as they were concerned, amongst the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom that were present, it would probably only be Duan Ling Tian and Nia Fun who possessed the strength to go against Hai Yi. Subconsciously, they'd taken Duan Ling Tian to be their last trump card. After all, there was still another first-level nascent soul stage young geniuses of the Sun Ascent Kingdom that hadn't made a move yet. Before today, they even thought that the Crimson Sky Kingdom would lose for sure. But since the instant earlier that they saw Duan Ling Tian, They seemed to have seen a light, a ray of hope. As far as they were concerned, Duan Ling Tian had left the Crimson Sky Kingdom for a few years to head to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and had joined one of those formidable sects, so his current strength would surely be even stronger. Swoosh. Niefun's figure flashed out to stand before the Sun Ascent Kingdom's young genius, Ha-Yi, in the blink of an eye, and he stood confrontation with Ha-Yi. Crimson Sky Kingdom, Divine Might Marquis Estate, Niefun. Niefun glanced at Ha-Yi indifferently as he spoke slowly. Niefun. Ha-Yi hadn't even reacted yet when the eyes of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador squinted. So it's the Divine Might Marquis Estate's Junior Marquis. The Crimson Sky Kingdom's Divine Might Marquis is the god of war whose might reverberates throughout the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Although I'm from the faraway Sun Ascent Kingdom, yet the Divine Might Marquis's name still roars in my ears like thunder. Now that I see the Junior Marquis today, he possesses an imposing and majestic appearance. As expected, the son of a talented and brave man is never a weakling. The words of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador praised Niefun extremely highly. As for if it was the truth or not, the people present were more or less able to discern it. Sometimes, the higher one is praised, the more one can't tolerate a loss. Otherwise, once one fell, one would be crushed. Divine Might Marquis, Ba-Er is honored. Subsequently, the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador looked at Nie Yuan, who sat at the opposite banquet table, and nodded with a smile. Ambassador, don't mention it. Nie Yuan replied indifferently, and he was obviously slightly disinterested. This caused the face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba-Er, to sink slightly, but his face quickly bloomed into a smile again, and his changes in expression were extremely swift. This Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador is truly a wolf at heart, but innocent in appearance. Duan Ling Tian glanced at Ba-Er indifferently as he thought to himself. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba-Er, looked to be ordinary, but Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force was extremely acute, and had long ago discerned that Ba-Er was a half-step void stage martial artist with extraordinary strength. Ha-Yi, this Junior Marquis, Niefun, of the Divine Might Marquis Estate is similar to you. He's a 9th level origin core stage martial artist as well. According to my knowledge, his strength is the strongest amongst the younger generation of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Regardless of if you're able to defeat him today or not, we'll win for sure. Ba-Er looked at Ha-Yi and said via voice transmission, however, if you're able to defeat him, then Galu doesn't have to fight. In this way, our Sun Ascent Kingdom would gain a complete victory. And once we return to the kingdom, I'll surely ask His Majesty to properly reward you. Don't worry, Lord Ambassador. I'll surely defeat Niefun. Ha-Yi replied via voice transmission. Junior Marquis, forgive me for being impolite. A cold light arose within Ha-Yi's eyes, and the instant he looked towards Niefun, the origin energy on his legs raged and skyrocketed. In the sky above him, 120 lifelike ancient mammoths accumulated force while waiting to be deployed. Swoosh. In the next moment, Ha-Yi moved, his entire body seeming to have transformed into an arrow shot out from a heavy bow, and his speed was extremely shocking. Howls of the wind sounded out everywhere he passed, and mixed within it was a wave of oppressive sounds of air exploding. Who? Right when Ha-Yi flashed to arrive nearby Niefun, his right hand flashed like a bolt of lightning past his waist, withdrawing the sheathed spirit saber, and a saber light flashed out. Wham! The extremely swift saber light contained raging origin energy that leaped about, and it seemed to be capable of destroying anything as it carried a might of sweeping away all obstacles and swept towards Niefun. In the sky, another 22 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared by the side of the existing 120 ancient mammoths. 9th level origin core stage. Grade 8 Spirit Saber. This saber strike contained the strength of 142 ancient mammoths. Everywhere it passed, the airflow in the area split apart, and its imposing might soared to the sky like a rainbow. Since Ha-Yi attacked until this moment, everything had happened in the blink of an eye. Many young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom broke out in cold sweat when they saw Ha-Yi's speed so swift. This Ha-Yi is really at the 9th level of the Origin Core stage. Fortunately, I didn't go challenge him, Otherwise, I would only be bringing disgrace to myself. I'm afraid that on the side of our Crimson Sky Kingdom, only Duan Ling Tian and the Junior Marquis are able to go against Hai. The instant the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were perturbed, Niefan moved. Swoosh. Niefan's movements were swift like the wind, and he dodged to the side. However, the Grade 8 Spirit Saber in Hai's hand seemed as if it had grown eyes, and it turned in a curve to sweep towards Niefan, following like a shadow and causing Niefan to be unable to dodge. Humph! A cold snort sounded out. It was Niefan whose eyes squinted, and he withdrew a spirit sword with a raise of his hand. Swish! A sword light that similarly contained the strength of 142 ancient mammoths flashed out, and it collided with the spirit saber in Hai's hand. Clang! Accompanied by the sound of iron weapons colliding, their origin energy collided together, and it caused the air to freeze for a moment. In the next moment, Niefan and Hai were blasted back at the same time. Both of them retreated 7 steps. Satisfying. Battle intent surged in Niefan's eyes. He seemed to have returned to that period of time of slaughtering on the battlefield, and the aura of slaughter on his body shot into the sky with an imposing might that was like a rainbow. Fight! 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 At this moment, it seemed like only Hai remained in the world in Niefan's eyes, and Hai was his enemy. Kill! Suddenly, Niefan shouted out explosively with heroic spirit that shot into the sky. In the next moment, it was as if Niefan was possessed by a war god. His body carried a shocking aura of slaughter as he dashed out with an imposing might that shot into the sky, and he possessed the appearance of being able to sweep through everything. Hai is about to lose. Duan Ling Tian casually glanced at Hai and thought in his heart. In the distance, Hai had caught his breath with extreme difficulty when he saw Niefan attacking once more. Instantly, he felt as if there was a terrifying aura of slaughter sweeping out from Niefan's body, and it caused fear to emerge from the bottom of his heart. No, we're both martial artists at the 9th level of the Origin Core stage. Why should I be afraid of him? Hai gritted his teeth. Then Origin energy bloomed atop the spirit saber in his hand, and he intended to greet Niefan's attack. Kill! Right at this moment, Niefan spoke once more with a voice that was like a thunderclap, and his aura that contained the aura of slaughter from the battlefield had enveloped Hai once again, causing Hai's mind to be distracted. The origin energy on the spirit saber instantly waned slightly. Swish! Wham! The sword and saber once again collided together fiercely. Origin energy roared, and it seemed like a fierce struggle between 2 equally matched opponents. Unlike the tie like before, this time, Niefan's battle intent surged, and the hot blood in his body boiled as if he'd returned to the time of slaughter on the battlefield. This sword strike contained many things. Whereas on Hai's side, the distraction of his mind earlier had caused the origin energy on his Grade 8 Spirit Saber to have signs of dispersing. Clang! Now that they'd collided, the sound of iron weapons colliding resounded once again. This time, the Grade 8 Spirit Saber Hai's hand was directly blasted flying, and the spirit sword in Niefan's hand was withdrawn by him after it blasted Hai's spirit saber flying. Swoosh! However, Niefan's fist instead carried along vast origin energy to fiercely descend onto Hai's chest. Kacha! The clear sound of bones breaking sounded out, and it caused a chill to run down one's spine. Hai seemed like the last to realize his bones breaking and emitted a shrill cry. Then his entire body flew out in a sorry state to fiercely fall onto the ground, and he struggled for a moment before directly fainting. Niefan victorious. Haha, good. Instantly, many people on the side of the Crimson Sky Kingdom cheered for Niefan. It was a good match. Niefan looked at the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba-Er, who was checking on the injuries of Hai with a refined and courteous manner, and his calm expression made him seem to be harmless. This caused Ba-Er to nearly spit blood out of anger. This Niefan knocked Hai out, yet he actually seems like nothing happened. Damn it. The Junior Marquis has proved himself to be the son of the Divine Might Marquis, developing such a terrifying aura of slaughter from the battlefield at such a young age. I'm afraid no one under the nascent soul stage could possibly be a match for you, Junior Marquis. Our Sun Ascent Kingdom is completely convinced of our loss in this round. After Ba Air gave Ha-E a medicinal pill, he glanced deeply at Nyefun. However, if Junior Marquis were to encounter a nascent soul stage martial artist, your aura of slaughter from the battlefield will probably only be a type of magnificent decoration and be of no use. Nyefun smiled indifferently, and he neither agreed nor disagreed. This caused Ba Air to be even angrier out of embarrassment. Then he shouted in a low voice, "Galu!" Along with Ba Air speaking, a robust young man on the banquet's table opposite the divine Might Marquis Estate's table, whose gaze never left Princess Ba Yao, suddenly came back to his senses. This robust young man was exactly the strongest person in the younger generation of the Sun Ascent Kingdom. Galu. His cultivation was at the first level of the Origin Core stage. In the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist at the age of around 35 could only be considered as above average. But in the tiny kingdoms, it was instead considered to be a rare genius. Crack crackle. Galu's figure flashed out to transform into a gust of wind that instantly flashed onto the empty space in the center to confront Nyefun. Then he lightly twisted his neck to emit a wave of clear sounds of bones rubbing together. "You aren't a match for me." Galu glanced at Nyefun lazily and spoke with slight disinterest. Along with Galu's fists being clenched tightly, 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above him. They accumulated force while waiting to be deployed. First-level nascent soul stage. Although most of the people on the side of the Crimson Sky Kingdom had heard that there was a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist amongst the three young geniuses that had come from the Sun Ascent Kingdom this time, but when they saw it with their own eyes, they still couldn't help from being slightly shocked. Meanwhile, almost all the gazes of everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom descended onto Nyefun. They were curious if Nyefun would choose to battle Galu or choose to admit defeat. If he chose to battle Galu, he would practically have no possibility of winning. The gap between a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist and a ninth-level Origin Core stage martial artist was too great. If he admitted defeat, it would undoubtedly grow the prestige of the Sun Ascent Kingdom and cause the arrogance of the members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom to be even greater. "I admit defeat." In next to no time, Nyefun made his decision. He shrugged with an indifferent expression and returned to the divine Might Marquis Estate's banquet table. The people of the Crimson Sky Kingdom weren't surprised when they saw this. Fortunately, they still had a trump card, so they didn't feel a sense of loss from Nyefun admitting defeat. Ha ha ha. The ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom, Ba Air, burst into laughter that was awfully arrogant. "The Junior Marquis is really a wise man who understands the situation. Your Majesty, in this way, the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of our two kingdoms ought to end with the victory of my Sun Ascent Kingdom, right?" As he finished speaking, Ba Air's yes narrowed and his face was filled with a smile of delight, as if the 3 year of taxes of the Crimson Sky Kingdom was close within reach. Truly boring. Could it be that there isn't a decent young genius in the Crimson Sky Kingdom? Galu spoke lazily. Then he turned around, intending to return to his seat. Wait. Right at this moment, the Divine Might Marquis, Nye Yuan, stopped Galu. "Divine Might Marquis, what advice or comments do you have?" Galu turned around and looked at Nye Yuan as he asked. Nye Yuan didn't answer Galu, but instead looked at another young man that sat by his side. Although he didn't know much about this young man, and only knew he was the junior brother of his nephew, Duan Lingtian. But since his nephew was so confident of the young man, he could only choose to believe. The young man was precisely Mou. Mou nodded when he saw Nye Yuan look over. Then he stood up and walked over with large strides, and he stood facing Galu in confrontation. Mou was undoubtedly an unfamiliar face to everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom. The age of this young man looks to be at most around 23. Why did the Divine Might Marquis ask him to stand out at a time like this? Could it be that his strength is stronger than the Junior Marquis? This was the thought that abruptly arose within the hearts of most of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom. After all, Mou's age was truly too young. The Emperor sat at the table of the host, and his eyes emitted slight surprise. and his curious gaze locked firmly onto Mou. Commander Duan, this young man seems to have been following by your side? Under his curiosity, the emperor asked Duan Ling Tian via voice transmission. He remembered that the first time he met this young man was following behind Duan Ling Tian and seemed to be extremely reverent of Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, he understood the divine might marquis, Nie Yuan, extremely well. He knew that if Nie Yuan wasn't confident, Nie Yuan would absolutely not allow this young man to go to battle. He's my junior brother. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled. Junior brother? The emperor was shocked. This young man was called junior brother by Duan Ling Tian, and his identity was obvious. He was a member of a sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Mou. Mou looked calmly at Galu before him and nodded indifferently. When Mou walked out, Galu's brows had already entangled together, and now when he heard Mou introduce himself, his face sank. Kid, you aren't a match for me, withdraw. As far as he was concerned, even if the young man's natural talent was any stronger, a young man at an age of around 23 wouldn't be strong to any extent. He was a nascent soul-stage martial artist, and even if he won the battle with such a young man, it wouldn't be glorious. Mou, looks like some people underestimate you extremely. Right at this moment, a sudden voice entered into the ears of everyone present. It's Duan Ling Tian. Instantly, the gazes of most of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom shot in unison at Duan Ling Tian, who sat by the emperor's side. This young man was brought over by Duan Ling Tian? Their hearts jerked. They knew clearly where Duan Ling Tian had gone for these past few years. Looks like this young man is probably from the sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom as well. The crowd of people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom couldn't refrain from guessing. The ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom glanced at Duan Ling Tian and frowned. If it wasn't for this young man being seated by the emperor's side and obviously possessed an extraordinary identity, he would have rebuked him long ago. A little kid like this dared to look down on the strongest young genius of their Sun Ascent Kingdom, Galu? But in the next moment, the scene before his eyes caused the ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom to go pale. Along with Duan Ling Tian finishing speaking, Mou suddenly took a step forward. Instantly, the energy of heaven and earth roiled above him, and it developed 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes in the end. At this moment, 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes stopped above Mou, and they accumulated force while waiting to be deployed. When seen from afar, they seemed to be extremely dazzling, and at the same time, they gave an extremely great visual shock to the people present. First level nascent soul stage. How old is he? This natural talent. It's even more abnormal than the #1 genius of our Crimson Sky Kingdom from 20 over years ago, Duan Ru Feng. It's too terrifying. This is a genius martial artist of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. At the side of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, the people of the 3 great clans, including their respective patriarchs, were all stunned. They felt inexplicable shock in their hearts. The emperor revealed a smile when he saw the scene before him, yet a trace of shock couldn't be avoided from flashing within his eyes. You, the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba Er's face flushed red when he saw the 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes above Mou. It was as if his throat was tightly choked, and he was unable to speak for a long time. This young man gave him too great of a shock. It's I who has underestimated you. Galu gasped, then looked at Mou with a serious expression. Mou looked calmly at Galu, and a 3-foot-long blade appeared out of thin air in his hand. Huh! Galu shouted out explosively when he saw this. Then his figure flashed like the wind, choosing to attack first to seize the initiative. Wham! With a raise of his hand, a spirit saber similarly appeared in Galu's hand, and origin energy bloomed on the spirit saber, bestowing formidable strength to him. Above Galu, another 56 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared at the side of the existing 200 ancient mammoth silhouettes. This was the amplification of the spirit weapon. Grade 7 Spirit Saber. Instantly, many people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom exclaimed in surprise. They never imagined that this Galu of the Sun Ascent Kingdom was not only a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist, but he possessed a Grade 7 Spirit Saber to rely on. Although a grade 7 spirit saber was only one grade above a grade 8 spirit saber, the strength had amplified but an entire 10% more. What sort of notion was 10%? For example, a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist that didn't utilize a spirit weapon possessed a strength comparable to the strength of 200 ancient mammoths. An amplification of 10% was the strength of 20 ancient mammoths. In other words, if MOU didn't possess a grade 7 spirit weapon, then Galu would have pulled open a gap of the strength of 20 ancient mammoths from MOU. The face of the divine might marquis, Nye Yuan, became grim. The scene before his eyes had exceeded his expectations. If he knew Galu had a grade 7 spirit saber in his possession, he'd surely have lent the grade 7 spirit sword he carried by his side to MOU. But unfortunately, it was already too late now. At this moment, only the three people at the host's table had a calm expression. Duan Ling Tian was calm because he knew the spirit sword in MOU's possession was a grade 7 spirit sword as well. The emperor was calm because he saw Duan Ling Tian was calm and he trusted Duan Ling Tian. As for Princess Bai Yao, she blindly believed in Duan Ling Tian. The Sun Ascent sect's ambassador, Ba Er, saw the expressions of everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom, and a wisp of complacency couldn't help but arise on his face. Humph, humph. All of you would never have imagined that I would lend my spirit saber to Galu beforehand. Subsequently, Ba Er looked towards the host's table, and when he saw the calm expressions of the three people there, his heart jerked as a bad premonition arose within his heart. Swish! An ear-piercing cry of the sword swept out, and it rose and fell, piercing the eardrums of the people present and causing it to tremble. The expressions of some of the young geniuses of the three great clans that were comparatively weaker had gone ghastly pale, and they emitted gazes of terror as they looked at the young man that swung his sword out. They clearly saw that when this young man called MOU attacked, the ancient mammoth silhouettes that appeared in the sky were actually similar in number to Galu. They knew clearly what this meant. Grade 7 spirit sword. MOU actually possessed a grade 7 spirit weapon. Destroy. The young genius of the Sun Ascent Kingdom, Galu, who attacked first to seize the initiative, shouted out explosively, and origin energy instantly skyrocketed on the grade 7 spirit saber in his hand. Instantly, the grade 7 spirit saber in Galu's hand was suffused and completely enveloped by a milky white and raging origin energy. Then it instantly transformed into a 3-meter-long enormous saber that directly chopped down towards MOU, and it carried along the might of splitting a mountain. It seemed as if it wanted to chop MOU into two. Minor 7-star sword technique. MOU's face remained unchanged when facing Galu's saber that approached menacingly, and the corners of his mouth slightly moved as he muttered. The spirit sword in MOU's hand trembled. Then it seemed like a stroke of the gods as it tore through the sky. And at practically the exact same time, numerous ear-piercing and oppressive sounds of air exploding sounded out. In this next moment, swish, 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 origin energy coiled around the spirit sword in MOU's hand, and it instantly transformed into 7 material sword lights that flashed out to intercept the enormous saber that chopped downwards in Galu's hand. The 7 sword lights were extremely similar to falling meteors that fell down scattered all over to blast onto the enormous saber. Bang! The first sword light descended down, causing the origin energy on the enormous saber to dim down, and the enormous saber shrunk slightly. Bang! The second sword light descended down, causing the origin energy on the enormous saber to dim down once again, and the enormous saber shrunk once again. Bang! Bang! The fourth sword light, the fifth sword light, the sixth sword light, and the 7th sword light all descended down successively, one sword after the other. It was like a surging waves in the ocean, one wave after the other, the next wave stronger than the one before. When the 6th sword light descended, the origin energy on the enormous saber in Galu's hand was completely dispersed. Then the spirit saber in Galu's hand recovered to its true form, and it was dim and dull. When the 7th sword light descended, the spirit saber in Galu's hand was blasted flying, and it pierced into a faraway wall with a clang. The palm of the hand Galu used to hold his saber had split open and fresh blood dripped down from it. At the side of his throat, a spirit sword that followed him like a shadow had silently arrived there. Silence. The scene was deathly silent. At this moment, the gazes of everyone had descended onto the two people at the center. Mou. This young man who wasn't a well-known figure was in high spirits, and the spirit sword in his hand was held on the throat of the strongest young genius of the Sun Ascent Kingdom, Galu. So long as he moved slightly, Galu would die for sure. I've lost. Galu had a dejected expression, and he allowed the fresh blood to continue flowing down ceaselessly from his palm, as if he didn't notice in the slightest. He'd lost. Defeated by a young man around the age of 23. Perhaps, since the moment the young man had executed that marvelous and unfathomable sword skill, he was already bound to lose. It was the first time in his lifetime that he'd seen such a marvelous sword skill. Finally, the spectators recovered from their shock, and for a time, the sounds of gasping rose and fell. What a formidable sword skill! The sword skill of this young man. Those 7 material sword lights caused it to be difficult to distinguish between true and false. Besides that, each sword light amongst those 7 sword lights were stronger than the previous, and every sword light that flashed out was like a falling meteor. It's truly shocking. My life hasn't been lived in vain since I was able to witness such a marvelous sword skill in my lifetime. Many people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom couldn't refrain from sighing with emotion. I truly never imagined that Mou has actually cultivated the minor 7-star sword technique to the perfection stage. Duan Ling Tian was slightly surprised. He was able to discern that in terms of cultivated stage, the minor 7-star sword technique that Mou executed earlier was already not inferior to the minor 7-star sword technique the traitor, Huang Ji, executed during the martial competition of the 5 great sections. Martial competition of the 5 great sects. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he recalled the scenes from the martial competition of the 5 great sects 1 year ago. Presently, only 3 out of the 5 great sects still remained. Moreover, the remaining sects had combined together to form a monolithic whole. Why would the Origin Convergence sect, Demonic Lotus Blade sect, and Snow Moon sect choose to combine together? Now, when he recalled the scenes on the peak of Dubhe Peak, Duan Ling Tian still felt it was difficult to understand. Logically speaking, no matter if it was the Origin Convergence sect, Demonic Lotus Blade sect, or Snow Moon sect, they were all sects that had been inherited for over 1,000 years, and it was impossible for them to easily abandon the name of their respective sects and choose to combine their sects. There's surely a secret within it, Duan Ling Tian said to himself. In the future, so long as I have the strength to annihilate the 3 great sects that have combined together, I'll naturally be able to know the reason. Killing intent flashed within Duan Ling Tian's eyes before he withdrew his thoughts, and his gaze once again descended onto Mou as he muttered in his heart. Sect leader, don't worry. I'll assist Mou in rebuilding the 7-star sword sect. Mou is extremely good, extremely outstanding, and you can rest in peace in the netherworld. Mou. At the table of the Divine Might Marquis Estate, Nie Yuan and Nie Fen looked at each other, and they both saw the shock in each other's eyes. Although they were mentally prepared since long ago, when they saw Mou defeat Galu with their own 2 eyes, they couldn't help but be shocked in their hearts. This is a person that has come from a sect in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Are all the people that come from sects in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom so abnormal? The corners of Nie Yuan and Nie Fan's mouth simultaneously curled into a bitter smile, as they both felt that most of their lifetime had been wasted. When he saw Mou defeat Galu, Duan Ling Tian thought that this farce would come to an end. As far as he was concerned, the so-called friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of the 2 kingdoms could indeed only be considered as a farce. However, the ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom seemed to not be resigned. You're called Mou? The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba Air, looked at Mou with a burning gaze as he asked in a deep voice. Mou nodded indifferently. Are you a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom? Ba Air suddenly took a step forward. Then his imposing manner as a half-step void stage martial artist swept out to envelop Mou. His pair of fierce eyes stared fixedly at Mou. as if he wanted to discern if MOU was lying from the changes in MOU's expression. Bayer's actions had exceeded the expectations of everyone. Instantly, everyone from the Crimson Sky Kingdom became grim. Ambassador Bayer, what is the meaning of this? Nie Yuan was the first to be unable to endure it, and his face sank as he asked with a low shout. Divine Might Marquis, I only want to know the background of this brother MOU. I presume that since brother MOU is able to possess this cultivation at such a young age, he isn't an ordinary person. But I've been in the Crimson Sky Kingdom for many days, yet I've never heard of any rumors related to him. Bayer's gaze never left MOU as he spoke with a calm tone. This time, it's the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of my Sun Ascent Kingdom and your Crimson Sky Kingdom. If a person that isn't from the Crimson Sky Kingdom interferes, then it seems to go against the intention of the agreement between me and His Majesty of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, right? MOU is only around the age of 23 and possessed a cultivation at the first level of the nascent soul stage, and he'd even mastered a marvelous sword skill that caused one to acclaim it to be at the acme of perfection. As far as Bayer was concerned, if MOU was from the Crimson Sky Kingdom, then MOU's name would have surely spread throughout the Crimson Sky Kingdom since long ago, and not be unknown to the public like he is today. When MOU appeared earlier, he noticed that most of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom didn't recognize MOU, and he'd started to suspect MOU since that moment. It was fine if MOU had lost at the hands of Galu, but MOU had won now. According to the wager of the friendly martial competition between the young geniuses of the two kingdoms, if the young geniuses of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were victorious, then the Sun Ascent Kingdom would lose 3 years' worth of taxes to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. 3 years of tax wasn't a small amount, and he was naturally unwilling to submissively give it to the Crimson Sky Kingdom like this. Moreover, he came this time for the sake of winning this wager. Now that he had the chance to overthrow the fact that the Crimson Sky Kingdom had won, so he naturally wouldn't let go of it. Shameless. You members of the Sun Ascent Kingdom are such sore losers. Humph. Looks like your Sun Ascent Kingdom intends to go back on your word. The disciples of the 3 great clans of the Crimson Sky Kingdom were filled with righteous indignation as they let out a torrent of abuse. Bayer's face remained unchanged as he said indifferently, Everyone, I'm only stating a fact. So long as brother MOU is from the Crimson Sky Kingdom, then my Sun Ascent Kingdom is naturally willing to admit defeat. Bayer stared fixedly at MOU, and his sharp gaze seemed to want to penetrate into MOU's heart. Brother MOU, are you a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom? Bayer asked once more. No. MOU shook his head and said indifferently, I'm only representing my senior brother. I have no objections if you feel that I'm not a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom and this battle isn't valid. Of course, in this way, the young genius of your Sun Ascent Kingdom will have to fight my senior brother. Senior brother? MOU's words caused Bayer's face to sink. At the first possible moment, Bayer looked at Duan Ling Tian, who sat by the Emperor's side. This young man is the junior brother of Duan Ling Tian. The members of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's 3 great sects came to a sudden understanding when they heard MOU. You are. At the same time that Bayer looked at Duan Ling Tian, his imposing manner swept out to press onto Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at Bayer. Is it fun? Is it fun? Bayer was stunned. This young man actually said he was playing? However, he was able to discern that this young man wasn't affected by his imposing manner in the slightest, and the young man's cultivation was obviously not low. Since your junior brother isn't a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, then his battle with Galu earlier isn't valid. What do you think? Bayer glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian as he spoke slowly. If you're not convinced, then you can ask him to battle me. Duan Ling Tian's tone was indifferent, as if he was speaking of a trivial matter. Bayer frowned when he saw Duan Ling Tian was so confident. In the end, he still nodded and looked at Galu. Galu, battle this young genius of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Bayer understood that this was his last chance. Moreover, he didn't dare believe that the young man that MOU addressed as senior brother would have a cultivation that was stronger than MOU. This young man's age was similar to MOU. Although MOU addressed him respectfully as senior brother, But who knew if it was due to manners and not because the young man had a strength that was stronger than Mou. So no matter what, he still wanted to try. Yes. Gulu nodded and returned to the center. Then he looked at Duan Ling Tian with a serious expression. Please come down and provide me with your advice. With the earlier experience taken from Mou, he didn't dare underestimate his opponent just because his opponent was young. Meanwhile, Mou returned to sit down by Nie Yuan's side. Then three of them looked at Gulu with a ridiculing gaze. The emperor and princess Bai Yao, who sat by Duan Ling Tian's side, and the members of the three great clans were all looking at Duan Ling Tian with interest. Come down. Duan Ling Tian glanced lazily at Gulu, then said indifferently, If you want me to come down, then it will depend on if you have the qualifications. The scene went deathly silent when Duan Ling Tian said this. Just to come down to the battlegrounds depended on if his enemy possessed the qualifications? This. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Only these thoughts remained in their hearts. Duan Ling Tian has only left for a few years, and he's actually become so arrogant? The people from the three great clans were all dumbstruck. The emperor and princess Bai Yao couldn't help but be stunned as well. The Duan Ling Tian in their memories seemed to not be a person like this. At this moment, even Nie Yuan, Nie Fan, and Mo Wu were stunned, as they didn't know why Duan Ling Tian would suddenly say this. Although they knew that Duan Ling Tian's strength was sufficient to crush Gulu, it still required him to go down to the center, right? Now, Duan Ling Tian seemed to now even have the intention to go down to the battleground at the center. Kid, you're too arrogant. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba Er, and Gulu spoke out at almost the exact same time, and their expressions were extremely unsightly. They'd seen arrogant people, but they'd really never seen such an arrogant person. Then I'm curious, how do you see if I have the qualifications to make you come down? Gulu looked at Duan Ling Tian with a cold gaze. Right at the instant that Gulu spoke, Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted and two dim lights seemed like two nether flames that blazed. At the instant that Gulu finished speaking, Kneel! Duan Ling Tian shouted out coldly. The ear-piercing sound spread through the entire imperial garden, and it shocked the eardrums of the people present to the point their eardrums vibrated intensely. The people present hadn't reacted to this when they saw a scene that was unforgettable in their entire lifetime. Gulu, who was originally arrogant, had knelt down on the ground with a thump, and his body was shivering as he mumbled, No, don't kill me, don't kill me. Gulu's voice was filled with extreme terror, and it caused others to feel a chill run down their spine when they heard this. He seemed as if he'd encountered an extremely terrifying thing. Besides Duan Ling Tian and Gulu, who were the people concerned, everyone present was dumbstruck. What's going on? Why did this Gulu kneel when Duan Ling Tian asked him to kneel? Moreover, Gulu seemed to be extremely terrified when facing Duan Ling Tian. No one knew what had happened. All this came too suddenly. Gulu. The Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba Er's face was gloomy, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission into Gulu's ears, wanting to wake Gulu up. But Gulu seemed to have not perceived it at all, and he still knelt there shivering while he mumbled, I've knelt. I've already knelt. Don't kill me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Gulu. When Ba Er noticed Gulu had no reaction after he sent a voice transmission into Gulu's ears, he hurriedly changed to shouting in a stern voice. But no matter how he shouted, Gulu didn't have the slightest reaction. Who? Right at this moment, a wave of a breeze blew past the imperial garden, and breeze that ought to have made others feel refreshed, instead seemed to have transformed into a wave of chilly wind at this moment. Besides Gulu's muttering and begging for mercy, only Ba Er's ceaseless shouts remained in the imperial garden. You? What exactly did you do? Ba Er's gaze moved from Gulu's to descend onto Duan Ling Tian, and he asked with a shout. Ba Er's voice contained traces of trembling mixed within. At this time, if he still didn't know that the young man by the emperor's side was the one that did it, then he would have lived so many years in vain. But the methods of this young man caused him to feel a chill run down his spine. The young man only sat on the spot without moving at all, and only a stern shout had made Gulu kneel down on the floor before shivering and ceaselessly begging for mercy. What ability is this? Demonic technique. Instantly, this thought emerged within the minds of everyone present at almost the exact same time, and as soon as the thought emerged, it rooted itself to their minds and was difficult to cast aside. Could it be that senior brother Duan Ling Tian really knows demonic techniques? The scene before him similarly exceeded MOU's expectations. Meanwhile, MOU couldn't help but recall the scenes he saw on the life and death arena on the peak of the seven-star sword sect's Dubhe Peak a few days ago. The 2-year agreement between senior brother Duan Ling Tian and Zither Young Master. Zither Young Master had suddenly lost his mind and could only be forced to lose at Duan Ling Tian's hands. At that time, most of the members of the Seven-Star Sword sect, including MOU, had thought that Zither Young Master had really lost his mind. Thus, he lost to Duan Ling Tian. But now, MOU didn't think like this any longer. He recalled the scene from that time. When that Zither Young Master left, he said repeatedly that senior brother Duan Ling Tian knows demonic techniques. Looks like senior brother Duan Ling Tian really knows demonic techniques. No, perhaps it's only an ability that is difficult for me to understand. MOU's heart trembled, and the gaze he shot at Duan Ling Tian became even more reverent. Besides Princess Bai Yao, everyone else, including the Emperor, Nie Yuan, and Nie Fan, felt a chill run down their spines when they looked at Duan Ling Tian. The scene before their eyes was too bizarre. Now, do you still think I'm arrogant? Duan Ling Tian gazed over calmly when faced with Ba Er's question, and he asked indifferently, "Now, do you still think I'm arrogant?" Duan Ling Tian's words entered into the ears of everyone present, and it caused them to be unable to refrain from recalling the words Duan Ling Tian spoke to Galu earlier. "If you want me to come down, then it will depend on if you have the qualifications." At that time, the first thought that came to mind when the people present heard this was arrogant. Duan Ling Tian was too arrogant. At that time, no one thought that Duan Ling Tian would be able to defeat Galu without going down to the center. But now, the people present all came to a sudden understanding. So it turned out that Duan Ling Tian wasn't arrogant, but he really had the ability. The facts prove that Galu indeed didn't possess the qualifications to make Duan Ling Tian come down. Bayer couldn't help but be infuriated when he heard Duan Ling Tian. Yet he had no way of refuting, and coldness silently rose within his heart. "Who exactly are you?" Bayer took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. "Are you really a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom?" "What? Do you want to doubt whether I'm a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom like you doubted my junior brother?" Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but laugh as his eyes emitted a wisp of disdain. He'd always looked down on people who couldn't accept defeat. TSK, Ambassador of the Sun Ascent Kingdom. You wouldn't be unable to accept defeat, right? You actually dare doubt whether he's a member of the Crimson Sky Kingdom or not. Perhaps you don't have any impression of the name Duan Ling Tian, but you ought to have heard of Commander Duan of our Crimson Sky Kingdom's embroidered uniform guard from a few years ago, right? You ought to have heard of the Genius Star Mastermind Department student of our Crimson Sky Kingdom's Paladin Academy that didn't waste a single soldier to capture the Southern Champion Kingdom's Southern Barbaric City, right? You ought to have heard of the peerless genius that gave rise to much discussion in our Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago, right? At the Shao clan's table, Shao Sun had a disdainful expression as he looked at Ba Er and spoke sarcastically. Early on, when Shao Sun hadn't finished speaking, the face of the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, Ba Er, had become gloomy. As soon as Shao Sun finished speaking, he looked at Duan Ling Tian as if he'd seen a ghost. You're that monster, Duan Ling Tian, that was widely known throughout the Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago. No wonder when I heard them call out to you before the friendly martial competition started today, I felt that your name seemed to be familiar. It's actually you. You've actually returned. When Duan Ling Tian had followed the emperor to arrive at the Imperial Garden earlier, Shao Sun and Shao Yu had once called out his name. So, Ba Er had an impression of it. Presently, Ba Er's extremely unsightly expression was undoubtedly displaying that Ba Er had once heard of Duan Ling Tian's deeds. Moreover, he knew that Duan Ling Tian had left the Crimson Sky Kingdom a few years ago. "I never expected that the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador knows of me. I'm truly overwhelmed with the unexpected favor." Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at Ba Er, and he had a carefree expression that seemed as if it wouldn't change even if Mt Tai collapsed before him. Ba had a long face as he knew clearly in his heart that he'd failed, that the Sun Ascent Kingdom had failed. The plan engineered by their Sun Ascent that could be considered to be perfect had completely failed because of Duan Ling Tian, who was an external factor to the plan. They suffered a crushing defeat. Your Majesty of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, our Sun Ascent Kingdom admits defeat. I'll return right now and ask our kingdom's emperor to send over the 3 year of taxes that belongs to the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Ba took a deep breath, and he intended to leave after bowing to the emperor. However, Galu knelt there and remained unmoved, causing him to feel a wave of headache. He gritted his teeth and didn't swallow his pride to ask Duan Ling Tian to stop in the end. Ba raised his hand and knocked Galu out, then carried Galu and Ha-E who were knocked out before leaving in a sorry state with Jamo. Ha ha ha. Most of the people from the Crimson Sky Kingdom, including the emperor, couldn't refrain from bursting into laughter when they saw Ba and Jamu's sorry figures disappearing into the distance. They laughed without restraint. They laughed proudly and in satisfaction. After a short moment, the emperor returned to his senses and looked at Duan Ling Tian with a complicated gaze. Commander Duan, how did you do it earlier? How did I do it? Duan Ling Tian's raised when he heard the emperor, and he recalled the scene from before. Earlier, when the Sun Ascent Kingdom's young genius, Galu, provoked him, he'd utilized his spiritual force to fuse into the soul brand and execute the soul skill, 1,000 Illusions. Once 1,000 Illusions was utilized, not to mention a mere first-level nascent soul stage martial artist, even a first-level void prying stage martial artist that wasn't an inscription master would be unable to guard against it. Of course, if it was a first-level void prying stage martial artist, then because of the martial artist's soul being comparatively stronger, even if Duan Ling Tian utilized the soul skill, 1,000 Illusions, it wouldn't come to the extent that the martial artist would be in a sorry state like Galu. Galu was only a first-level nascent soul stage martial artist, and before Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force, Galu's spiritual force was like a child facing an adult. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force crushed Galu's spiritual force in every aspect, and Duan Ling Tian was able to willfully trample upon Galu. Earlier, Duan Ling Tian had precisely built an extremely terrifying illusion space with the soul skill, 1,000 Illusions, and used it to envelop Galu. Within that illusion space, Galu only persisted for a short moment before his spirit completely collapsed and he knelt on the ground begging for mercy. When he returned to his senses, Duan Ling Tian noticed that it wasn't just the emperor. The gazes of every present has descended onto him in unison. Obviously, they were extremely curious. I don't know how to explain that ability of mine. All of you can take it as a demonic technique. Duan Ling Tian shrugged as he spoke slowly. The people present didn't continue asking when they discerned that Duan Ling Tian was unwilling to say any more. After all, everyone had a secret that belonged to themselves, and getting to the bottom of it would only cause others to feel detest. Alas, Big Brother Ling Tian, when will my spiritual force be able to break through to the void initiation stage? If my spiritual force is able to break through to the void initiation stage, then I'll be able to awaken my soul brand and comprehend soul skills. Hee. At that time, I want to go and scare people as well. The naive voice of a young girl that belonged to the little gold mouse entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Scare people? But when this naive voice entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, it caused him to feel a slight chill run down his spine. This little gold isn't a good person in the first place. If she were to awaken her soul brand and comprehend soul skills, then wouldn't she become extremely cocky? I'm happy today. Prepare a banquet at noon, and we'll consider it as welcoming Commander Duan and his junior brother, Divine Might Marquis, and everyone. All of you stay back and join the welcoming dinner for Commander Duan and his junior brother. The emperor had a brilliant smile on his face as he spoke to everyone present. Yes, Your Majesty. There was naturally no one who would refuse the emperor's invitation. Subsequently, the emperor gave the command, and the eunuchs and maids in the imperial palace went to prepare the banquet. During the welcoming banquet, Duan Ling Tian and Mou became the absolute center of attention. Especially the patriarchs of the three great clans even beat around the bush as they asked Mou if he was engaged, causing Mou to flush red with embarrassment and find it difficult to deal with. Senior brother Duan Ling Tian. Mou could only seek help from Duan Ling Tian. However, Duan Ling Tian himself was busy enough dealing with them. So would he help Mou? He instead pushed Mou into the pit of hell. Mou, I think that the three patriarchs are correct. You aren't young any longer. Even if you don't get married, setting up a few marriages is a good thing as well. Right. The three patriarchs hurriedly agreed, and the gaze they shot at Mou was simply like wolves who'd seen a little sheep. When he saw this, Mou could only say to himself, I've been careless in making friends. Commander Duan, accompanied by Yao for a walk. The emperor looked at Princess Bai Yao, then looked at Duan Ling Tian, and his gaze was complicated. During these few years, he'd wanted to find a groom for his daughter on many occasions, but this daughter of his only thought of Duan Ling Tian every day. This caused him, who was the father, to be exceedingly helpless. How could Duan Ling Tian not be able to discern the emperor's thoughts? And when he saw the anticipation in Princess Bai Yao's eyes, he nodded and stood up before leaving the banquet with Princess Bai Yao. As he walked shoulder to shoulder with Princess Bai Yao in the imperial palace, Duan Ling Tian had the intention to reveal that he didn't hope that Princess Bai Yao would waste her lifetime waiting for him. Unexpectedly, Princess Bai Yao's attitude was exactly similar to Xiaolan. She spoke in a manner as if she would marry no one but Duan Ling Tian, and she would rather wait for him alone. Duan Ling Tian felt a wave of helplessness. Could it be that I've really brought my charm from my previous life over? Duan Ling Tian was secretly smug. As the king of mercenaries on Earth in his previous life, there was no lack of outstanding women by his side. Some wanted to marry him, some wanted to bear his child, some were willing to give everything for him. Looks like having too great charm isn't a good thing sometimes. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart as he sighed to himself. Never mind, I'll leave it up to fate. Duan Ling Tian sighed rather helplessly when faced with Princess Bai Yao's resoluteness. What ability did he have to actually make so many outstanding women willing to hold on to him and not request any status or reciprocation? After the welcoming banquet ended, Duan Ling Tian and Mou had once again sat into the Divine Might Marquis Estate's carriage and left the Imperial Palace with Nie Yuan and Nie Fun. Little Tian, the ability you executed today truly shocked me. However, it's good this way. If you exerted a strength at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage before the Sun Ascent Kingdom's ambassador, I wonder how he'd look from the shock. Nie Fun looked at Duan Ling Tian, and at the same time, he sighed with emotion and laughed. His gaze was extremely complicated. That day when he saw Duan Ling Tian for the first time, Duan Ling Tian was only an 18-year-old youth that was much inferior to him. Now, 5 years had passed, and Duan Ling Tian had surpassed him in all aspects to become an existence that he could only look up to. Duan Ling Tian smiled lightly, then looked towards the nearby Nie Yuan. Uncle Nie, are you extremely curious about the ability I utilized earlier? On the way, Duan Ling Tian was able to notice that Nie Yuan was hesitating to speak, and he vaguely guessed Nie Yuan's thoughts. It's all right if it's inconvenient for you to say. Uncle Nie was just shocked by you for a time. Nie Yuan shook his head and smiled, and didn't have the intention of forcing Duan Ling Tian to tell him. Actually, it isn't a secret. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled, and for a time, he also drew the attention of Nie Fun and Mou. Obviously, Nie Fun and Mou were both extremely interested towards the ability that Duan Ling Tian utilized on the Sun Ascent Kingdom's young genius, Galu. Especially Mou. That day, he'd once seen Duan Ling Tian use this ability to subdue Zither Young Master. The Zither Young Master was one of the 5 great young masters that were the most outstanding in the younger generation of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, and his cultivation had already stepped into the half-step void stage. However, even then, before Duan Ling Tian's mysterious ability, Zither Master still was unable to escape from losing miserably. Uncle Nie, how much do you know about the soul? And how much do you know about spiritual force? Duan Ling Tian looked at Nie Yuan and asked. Nie Yuan pondered for a moment before continuing. The soul is the foundation of a person and the location of the consciousness. As for spiritual force, I only know that it's closely related to inscription masters. It was exactly spiritual force that inscription masters combined with various special materials to inscribe inscriptions. Moreover, spiritual force is also called as the energy of the soul, and it's sourced from the soul. Nie Yuan said to Duan Ling Tian, I only know this. Uncle Nie, you're correct. This is the concept of the soul and spiritual force. However, in Cloud Continent, there are instead some formidable human martial artists that are able to attack by relying on spiritual force. They stand at the peak of Cloud Continent, and they are called martial emperors. Duan Ling Tian said slowly. Martial emperor. Nie Yuan was slightly moved when he heard Duan Ling Tian, whereas Nie Fun and Mou instead had puzzled expressions as they'd obviously never heard of a martial emperor. Martial emperors really exist. Nie Yuan's breathing became rapid. Of course they do. Duan Ling Tian's eyes reveal a trace of yearning. Although there aren't many martial emperor stage experts on Cloud Continent, there aren't few either. All of them are existences that stand at the peak of Cloud Continent, and they command the clouds and the rain. Their martial strength is extraordinary and world-shaking. As he finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian felt his blood boil, and he was slightly excited. After all, he'd fused with the memories of a formidable martial emperor. The Rebirth Martial Emperor had once stood at the peak of the martial emperor experts on Cloud Continent. Father, what are you and little Tian talking about? What's a martial emperor? Niefan frowned as he asked. Mou looked at Duan Ling Tian as well, as he similarly didn't understand the conversation between Duan Ling Tian and Nie Yuan. Martial emperor? What's that? Ask little Tian to tell you. Nie Yuan shook his head and sighed, and he suddenly felt that his knowledge seemed to be far inferior from this nephew of his. Big brother Nie, a martial emperor is an existence that stands above a martial monarch, whereas a martial monarch is an existence that stands above the void transformation stage. Under Duan Ling Tian's explanation, Niefan finally obtained a certain level of understanding towards the levels of cultivation at the peak of Cloud Continent. I've heard of the martial monarch, yet it's the first time I'm hearing about the martial emperor. I never imagined that there was still an existence that stood above the martial monarch in the Cloud Continent. Niefan couldn't help but be moved. Mou had an expression of shock as well. A martial emperor stage expert. What a heaven-defying existence would that be? It was difficult to imagine. Little Tian, you said earlier that human martial artists are only able to utilize the spiritual force to attack once they attain the martial emperor stage. Then the ability you utilized earlier is? Nie Yuan looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked the key point. The ability I executed earlier isn't a spiritual force attack, and it can be only considered as a type of spiritual force interference ability. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian spoke of the matter related to the soul brand. Including the matter of the soul brand only appeared in some demon beasts, and how he's obtained the soul brand that day. He'd spoke of all of it and didn't hide it. This luck of yours is simply heaven-defying. That's a soul brand left behind by an inscription master from the foreign lands. Yet you were actually able to encounter it. Niefan had an expression of jealousy and envy. Something left behind by an inscription master from the foreign lands, and it was even in existence at the void transformation stage that had left it behind, yet it was actually obtained by Duan Ling Tian. This luck would probably cause anyone to feel envious. Nie Yuan and Mou looked at Duan Ling Tian with a complicated gaze, as they both had the same thought as Nie Fun, and thought that Duan Ling Tian's luck was heaven-defying. Duan Ling Tian recalled the incident that occurred that day when he obtained the soul brand left behind by the inscription master, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. At that time, I'd originally already left the abode. Later on, it was because of Elder Kong who was interested in that abode that caused me to bring them back there. Otherwise, I'd probably have missed it. When he thought about how he almost brushed past and missed the soul brand, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but feel a wave of fear when he recalled it now. If he didn't possess that soul brand, then he wouldn't be able to master the soul skill, Thousand Illusions. If he was unable to master the soul skill, Thousand Illusions, then it would have been impossible for him to have seized the victory in the 2-year agreement with Zither Young Master. Presently, The soul skill, Thousand Illusions, seemed to have become a great trump card of Duan Ling Tian's, a trump card with shocking might. Before long, the carriage returned to the divine Might Marquis estate. After bidding his farewell with Nie Yuan and Nie Fan, Duan Ling Tian brought Mou along to stroll all around the inner city, and they returned to the courtyard house after strolling for some time. In the subsequent days, Duan Ling Tian didn't step a foot out of his house's door, and he either cultivated or accompanied his mother. His days were passed in extreme comfort. 1 month later, Duan Ling Tian sat cross-legged on the bed within a spacious room. The origin energy in his body endlessly pulsed and circulated according to the fourth form of the 9 Dragons' War Sovereign technique, the Wind WIRM form. At this moment, the origin energy in Duan Ling Tian's body had already increased to the breaking point. I hope I can succeed this time. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath, and the origin energy in his body seemed to have transformed into raging waves that fiercely collided with the last bottleneck of the 6th level of the nascent soul stage. Bang! The bottleneck loosened, yet wasn't smashed open, and it was obviously still lacking slightly. Charged through it in one go. Duan Ling Tian was clear in his heart that once he broke through this bottleneck, his cultivation would be like a fish leaping over the dragon gate, obtaining a tremendous leap in quality. Bang! Bang! Time after time, Duan Ling Tian seemed to utterly not know exhaustion as he stuffed the nascent nurturing pills one by one into his mouth as if they were worthless. Almost. After continuing for a day and night, Duan Ling Tian was already dripping with sweat, and his spirits were drooping. But he still clenched his teeth tightly and stubbornly persisted. He knew clearly in his heart that if he were to miss this opportunity, then his hard work from before would have been wasted, and he wasn't willing to make his previous effort come to nothing. Bang! Finally, everything comes to one who persists. Under Duan Ling Tian's tireless efforts, he'd finally charged through the last bottleneck at the 6th level of the nascent soul stage and completed his breakthrough. 7th level nascent soul stage. I've finally broken through. Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes after he completed the breakthrough, and his eyes were bright like an array of stars as they flickered with an exceptionally dazzling light. 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath and lightly clenched his fist, and origin energy leaped about on his fist. Instantly, 1,011 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared above him. Whoosh! After a short moment, a ball of condensed flames blazed with a flip of Duan Ling Tian's palm. Pill fire. Presently, the pill fire that burned on Duan Ling Tian's hand was simply different, like the difference between the heaven and earth when compared with before. In the past, his pill fire was green in color. Now, his pill fire was azure in color. If another alchemist was here and saw the pill fire on Duan Ling Tian's hand, the alchemist would surely be extremely astonished. A grade 5 pill fire appearing in the hand of a 23-year-old young man was almost impossible. A 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist. There probably wasn't an existence that was so monstrous amongst all the alchemists on Cloud Continent. Grade 5 alchemist. A wisp of a smile appeared on Duan Ling Tian's face as he gazed at the pill fire in his hand. Along with a command in his heart, the pill fire in his palm changed. It became raging and fierce, and it was completely another opposite when compared to the pill fire from before. The flame now was still azure-colored, yet its characteristics was completely different. Grade 5 weapon flame. I'm finally able to refine grade 5 spirit weapons. Duan Ling Tian's face emitted a satisfied smile when he saw the azure-colored weapon flame that slowly rose on his palm. A 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist and grade 5 weapons craftsman. Once it spread out, it could be imagined how many alchemists and weapons craftsmen would be ashamed to the point they wanted to knock into a wall and die. However, all this was nothing to Duan Ling Tian. To him, so long as his cultivation was sufficient and his origin energy satisfied the conditions, he would be able to condense the pill fire and weapon flame at the limit of his cultivation. Once my cultivation breaks through to the 1st level of the void prying stage, my pill fire and weapon flame will be able to improve once again and improve to the 4th grade. At that time, I'll be a grade 4 alchemist and grade 4 weapons craftsman. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed, and his face was filled with confidence. Unfortunately, the advancement of the pill fire and weapon flame after that is instead comparatively difficult. Duan Ling Tian sighed when he thought of pill fire and weapon flame at the 3rd grade and above. Grade 4 pill fire and weapon flame could be condensed with origin energy at the 1st level of the void prying stage. Grade 3 pill fire and weapon flame required origin energy at the 1st level of the void initiation stage to be condensed. Grade 2 pill fire and weapon flame instead required origin energy at the 1st level of the void interpretation stage to condense. Grade 1 pill fire and weapon flame corresponded to the origin energy at the 1st level of the void transformation stage. If one wants to become a grade 1 alchemist or grade 1 weapons craftsman, then besides requiring an extremely high natural talent in alchemy and weapons refinement, the requirement of natural talent in the martial Tao is extremely high as well. After all, if one's cultivation is unable to break through to the void transformation stage, then it would be utterly impossible to condense grade 1 pill fire and grade 1 weapon flame with the origin energy. Duan Ling Tian swiftly searched through the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, and he couldn't help but sigh with emotion in his heart. In Cloud Continent, the reason grade 1 alchemists and grade 1 weapons craftsmen were scarce was because there were very few people that could achieve such accomplishments in 2 domains. All the people in Cloud Continent that were able to become grade 1 alchemists and grade 1 weapons craftsmen were all top figures amongst geniuses. I'm already a grade 5 alchemist now, and I'm completely able to refine a void advancement pill myself. However, the main material to refine a void advancement pill is a problem. Duan Ling Tian's thoughts spun, and he thought of the void advancement pill. The void advancement pill was a grade 5 medicinal pill that was able to assist a half-step void stage martial artist directly break through to the void prying stage. However, its side effects were extremely great. It would be impossible for the martial artist that consumed the void advancement pill to break through to the void initiation stage in his entire lifetime. A person who'd consumed a void advancement pill was comparably to someone who'd cut off the opportunity to comprehend concept. Inability to comprehend concept meant that the martial artist was unable to break through to the void initiation stage. To a certain extent, the void advancement pill was a heaven-defying medicinal pill that changed one's fate, so once it's consumed, one had to pay an extremely great price. Presently, Duan Ling Tian followed along the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor and completely understood the void advancement pill. The main material of the void advancement pill can be replaced with monkey wine. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian found out about something from the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor. Earlier, I was still thinking that main material for the void advancement pill was extremely difficult to find in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. But I never imagined that the Rebirth Martial Emperor has helped me solve this problem. Duan Ling Tian withdrew his mind from the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor. Then he withdrew all the other materials required to refine a void advancement pill. Besides the main ingredient, the other materials were extremely ordinary, and Duan Ling Tian just happened to have them in his possession. When Duan Ling Tian took out the cauldron, he couldn't help but be stunned as he'd noticed an extremely important problem. Refining a grade 5 medicinal pill required the usage of a grade 5 cauldron. Fortunately, the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial Palace stored materials to refine a grade 5 cauldron, and when the Emperor found out that Duan Ling Tian had a need, he generously gifted it to Duan Ling Tian. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian refined the first grade 5 spirit weapon in his entire life, a cauldron. Relying on the grade 5 spirit cauldron and the pile of medicinal materials and monkey wine, Duan Ling Tian successfully refined 3 void advancement pills. Duan Ling Tian gave one of them to the Emperor. Your Majesty, Duan Ling Tian is extremely grateful for obtaining your care for so long. Take this void advancement pill as a little kind feelings of mine. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he spoke. The Emperor gazed at the medicinal pill in his hand that contained flowing lights revolving atop it, and he couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. Void advancement pill? This is a void advancement pill. Even though he was the Emperor of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, The void advancement pill was similarly an existence that was out of reach to him. Now, he held one in his hand. Commander Duan, I really don't know how to thank you. The emperor sighed, and his gaze was complicated. Although he'd helped Duan Ling Tian quite a great deal, as far as he was concerned, those things were completely not worth mentioning when compared with a void advancement pill. After all, a void advancement pill was equal to a void prying stage martial artist. Within the Imperial Palace, there were many half-step void stage martial artists, yet there wasn't a single existence at the void prying stage besides him. Now that he had this void advancement pill, it would also mean that a void prying stage martial artist would be born in the Imperial Kingdom. Duan Ling Tian's action of gifting the void advancement pill to him was practically equivalent to gifting a void prying stage martial artist to him. Don't mention it, Your Majesty. I came to the Imperial Palace today exactly for the sake of gifting this void advancement pill to Your Majesty. Now that I've gifted it, I ought to leave. Duan Ling Tian bid his farewells to the emperor, then left the throne room and left the Imperial Palace. After leaving the Imperial Palace, Duan Ling Tian went to the Duan clan estate. It was the first time he'd returned to the Duan clan after returning to the Crimson Sky Kingdom for a month. The Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua, personally came out to greet Duan Ling Tian in when he heard Duan Ling Tian had come. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian met the Duan clan Grand Elder, Duan Zhen, once again. The old man was brimming with energy and vitality, and he looked as good as ever. Little fellow, the patriarch told me about what happened in the Imperial Palace 1 month ago. I truly never imagined that you have such great ability now. Right? Which sect did you join after heading to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom? Duan Zhen looked at Duan Ling Tian, and a trace of a sheen of anticipation flashed past his muddy eyes. Great Elder, wanting to know which sect I joined is not your true intention. Wanting to know if I've obtained a void advancement pill for the clan is the truth, right? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled as he spoke straightforwardly. This caused Duan Zhen to be extremely embarrassed. Grand Elder, I was lucky and succeeded in carrying out the task. When he saw it was about time, Duan Ling Tian withdrew one of the 2 remaining void advancement pills in his hand and passed it to Duan Zhen. This is a void advancement pill. Duan Zhen received the medicinal pill that was contained flowing lights revolving atop it from Duan Ling Tian. Then he stared fixedly at it, his eyeballs almost dropping out from his staring, and his face was filled with excitement. The Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Ruhua, the 4th master of the Duan clan, Duan Ruhong, and all the Duan clan elders who stood at the side all stared fixedly at the medicinal pill in Duan Zhen's hand. Void advancement pill. This is a void advancement pill. What? Grand Elder, are you worried I would deceive you? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. Grand Elder, this void advancement pill possesses a purity that far surpasses ordinary void advancement pill. Once it's consumed by a martial artist that had been stuck at the half-step void stage for many years, would have an over 90% chance of instantly breaking through to the void prying stage. Duan Zhen's old and shaky figure shook when he heard Duan Ling Tian, and his face revealed a shocked expression. Is this true? Although he'd never seen a void advancement pill, he'd heard of it. But it was the first time he'd heard of such an abnormal void advancement pill. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he said, If Grand Elder doesn't believe me, you're welcome to consume it and try. Haha, good. Under the gazes of all the higher-ups of the Duan clan, Duan Zhen consumed the void advancement pill and closed his eyes. After a short moment, whoosh. It was as if a gust of wind swept out towards the surroundings from Duan Zhen at the center, and it blew on the clothes of Duan Ling Tian and all the Duan clan higher-ups to cause their clothes to flutter in the wind. Meanwhile, everyone was able to sense that the aura on Duan Zhen's body had changed. It had become even more profound and even more unfathomable. Grand Elder, you, Duan Ruhua stared blankly at Duan Zhen with an expressions of anticipation and nervousness. The other Duan clan elders stared fixedly at Duan Zhen as well. Only Duan Ling Tian sat nearby with one leg crossed over the other, and he held up a teacup and drank tea in a composed manner, as if he wasn't anxious in the slightest. Ha ha ha. In next to no time, Duan Zhen's hearty laughter sounded out, His laughter was like a wave of thunderclaps that shook the audience hall to the point some small decorations shook endlessly, and it caused all the Duan clan higher-ups to be dumbstruck. They could clearly feel that at the same time Duan Jun was laughing loudly. The imposing aura that swept out of his body was an imposing aura that surpassed the half-step void stage. Void prying stage. The Grand Elder had directly broken through to the void prying stage. Congratulations, Grand Elder. Congratulations, Grand Elder. Instantly, all the Duan clan higher-ups congratulated Duan Jun. Little fellow, thank you. Duan Jun paid no attention to Duan Ru Hua and the others. He instead looked at the nearby Duan Ling Tian and slightly bowed. Duan Ling Tian was originally leisurely drinking tea, and when he saw Duan Jun turn to look towards him and even bow to thank him, it shocked Duan Ling Tian to the point he hurriedly jumped away. Grand Elder, why are you doing this? If my mother knows that I received a bow from you, then wouldn't she lecture me to death? Grand Elder, you can't do this to me. Duan Jun was first stunned when he saw Duan Ling Tian's actions. Then he couldn't help but laugh. Don't worry, the matter from today won't enter into your mother's ears. If anyone dares talk too much, then I'll pull out their tongue. As he spoke up to hear, Duan Jun's gaze flashed past the faces of all the Duan clan higher-ups. Even the patriarch, Duan Ru Hua, wasn't excluded. This caused all the Duan clan higher-ups to be at a loss of whether to laugh or cry. However, in next to no time, the gazes of these Duan clan higher-ups descended onto Duan Ling Tian, and their gazes flickered with an unusual sheen. Don't look at me, all of you. I only have the void advancement pill that Grand Elder consumed in my possession. Even that void advancement pill was something I asked my master for many years to obtain, and he was truly unable to endure it. Thus he requested a grade 5 alchemist to refine it. When Duan Ling Tian saw the burning gazes of all the Duan clan higher-ups, how could Duan Ling Tian not know their thoughts? And he shrugged as he spread his hands out and spoke. This caused everyone to experience a wave of disappointment. Grand Elder, if there's nothing else, then I'll take my leave first. Duan Ling Tian put down the teacup and smiled to Duan Jun. Little fellow, the Duan clan will always remember what you did for the Duan clan. The Duan clan let you and your mother down in the incident all those years ago. From today onwards, the Duan clan will try its best to repay everything the Duan clan owes the two of you by twice as much. Duan Jun said with a serious expression. Duan Ling Tian disregarded past grievances and had produced a void-prying stage martial artist for the Duan clan, and he was undoubtedly a person who'd rendered great service to the Duan clan. Grand Elder, don't mention it. Duan Ling Tian didn't take Duan Jun's heartfelt words seriously. He'd utterly never thought of wanting the Duan clan to repay him and his mother. He'd gifted a void advancement pill to the Duan clan today only for the sake of the agreement he made with the Duan clan that day. It was only an entanglement of benefit. He'd only fulfilled his promise from that day. The Duan clan's feelings between others depended on one's position, and they were cold and detached. And this was something that he'd seen through since long ago. After he left the Duan clan estate, Duan Ling Tian headed to the Divine Might Marquis estate and sent the last void advancement pill in his possession into the hands of Nie Yuan. Little Tian, what's this? Nie Yuan looked in wonder at the medicinal pill Duan Ling Tian passed to him and asked curiously. Flowing lights revolved on the medicinal pill, and one could know it was extraordinary with a single glance. Uncle Nie, this is a void advancement pill. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. Nie Yuan was instantly stunned when he heard this. Then he spoke with an excited expression. This? Little Tian, where did you get this void advancement pill from? Would Uncle Nie believe it if I said I refined it myself? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed as he asked. Nie Yuan's excited expression instantly froze, and he stared blankly at Duan Ling Tian. Little Tian, this void advancement pill was refined by you? This is a grade 5 medicinal pill. A grade 5 medicinal pill can only be refined by a grade 5 alchemist. As he finished speaking, his tone contained traces of trembling. Although he'd been shocked by Duan Ling Tian on many occasions, he still didn't dare believe it now. Grade 5 alchemist. Up until now, there seemed to have never been a single grade 5 alchemist that has appeared in their Crimson Sky Kingdom. Even if it was the guild master of the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Alchemist Guild's main guild, an existence that had come from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, was only a grade 6 alchemist. Hiss. Duan Ling Tian naturally guessed Nie Yuan's thoughts when he saw Nie Yuan's expression. Then he lightly smiled as he flipped his palm. Then a strand of azure-colored flame lit up from his palm. 5. Grade 5 Pill Fire. Although Nie Yuan hadn't met a grade 5 alchemist and had never seen a grade 5 pill fire, but one who'd never eaten pork ought to have seen a pig run, and he'd once seen records related to pill fire in an ancient book. According to his knowledge, the grade 5 pill fire was azure in color. After Duan Ling Tian withdrew the fire on his hand, Nie Yuan was dumbstruck for a long time before recovering from his shock. Then he looked at Duan Ling Tian as if he was looking at a freak. Little Tian, no wonder Nie Yuan said you're a freak amongst freaks, an abnormal amongst abnormals. Now it would seem that his words aren't completely illogical. Never had Duan Ling Tian imagined that Nie Yuan was stunned for so long, and in the end he burst out with such words. This caused Duan Ling Tian to feel a wave of speechlessness. A 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist. If this were to spread out, then not to mention our Crimson Sky Kingdom, even the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, the Darkstone Empire, and even the Darkhan Dynasty would probably be shocked. Nie Yuan shook his head and sighed, and his gaze was extremely complicated. Duan Ling Tian smiled indifferently. Darkhan Dynasty? Not to mention the Darkhan Dynasty. Even if it was the entire foreign lands, it was quite unlikely for a 23-year-old grade 5 alchemist to appear. At least, in the 2 lifetimes of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, he's encountered countless grade 5 alchemists. But the youngest was already over 30. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, before he'd relied on the 3 lives rebirth technique to undergo his second cycle of rebirth, the 30-year-old grade 5 alchemist had already become a grade 2 alchemist, and the natural talent of that alchemist could be easily imagined. Supposedly, grade 5 pill fire required origin energy at the 7th level of the nascent soul stage or above to condense. Little Tian, could it be that you? Nie Yuan looked at Duan Ling Tian as if he wanted to confirm something. Uncle Nie, you're correct. I've already broken through to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage. Duan Ling Tian nodded with a smile to Nie Yuan as he spoke. 7th level nascent soul stage. After he obtained Duan Ling Tian's confirmation, Nie Yuan's mood that had originally calmed had surged once again. If your father is still alive, and he knew he had such a promising son, he would probably even wake up laughing while he sleeps. Nie Yuan caught his breath and sighed. Duan Ling Tian brows raised. His deadbeat dad? There were many things weighing on Duan Ling Tian's mind when he left the Divine Might Marquis estate. Then he directly went to see Li Ro after returning home. Mother, do you where father went all those years ago? Duan Ling Tian asked directly. Tian, why are you suddenly asking this? Li Ro was slightly bewildered. I want to go there and look. Perhaps I can confirm if father is still alive. Duan Ling Tian had a serious expression as he spoke. No. Li Ro's face went pale and directly rejected this thought of Duan Ling Tian's. You can't go to that place, absolutely not. At this moment, Li Ro's expression was serious and exceedingly firm. The more Li Ro was like this, the more curious Duan Ling Tian was in his heart. Mother, what sort of place is that? Tian, you can't go to that place no matter what. Mother has already lost your father. I can't lose you as well. Li Ro spoke seriously. Mom, what are you talking about? You won't lose me. Duan Ling Tian shook his head, and he felt his mother was worrying unnecessarily. Mother, when father went to that place, his cultivation had only just broken through to the nascent soul stage. Now, my cultivation isn't inferior to father from all those years ago. There won't be any danger. No. Li Ro was unprecedentedly obstinate. Tian, mother knows you want to find your father, so does mother. But that place is too bizarre. After your father went missing, the Duan clan sent out a half-step void stage ancestor to personally go to that place. But in the end, even that formidable ancestor went completely missing, as if he'd completely vanished into thin air. As she finished speaking, Li Ro's eyes emitted a wisp of terror. An existence at the half-step void stage didn't come out alive after entering that place? At this moment, Duan Ling Tian's heart was even more itchy and intolerable. Of course, he'd also realized that place wasn't simple. Exactly what sort of place is this place that's able to make a half-step void stage expert be unable to come out alive? Mom, I understand. I never expected that place is so terrifying. Don't worry, I won't go. Duan Ling Tian pretended to have a lingering fear in his heart as he spoke. Li Ro's face finally revealed a smile once again, but Duan Ling Tian was able to notice the smile was forced. Looks like Mom is thinking of my deadbeat dad again. Duan Ling Tian sighed in his heart. I'll first go inquire about where that place is during these few days. Then, I'll stay at home for a few days before departing. Otherwise, it would surely arouse Mom's suspicion. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart as he came to a decision. Guaranteeing to his mother that he wouldn't go to that place was only an expedient measure. He didn't want to make his mother worry. No matter what, he was surely going to that place. With little gold, I don't believe that there's any place Duan Ling Tian, can't go to in the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom. A wisp of bright light flashed in the depths of Duan Ling Tian's eyes. Little Gold was a third-level void-prying stage demon beast and had even comprehended half-step advanced lightning force. Even in the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom, she was considered to be in existence at the top. Duan Ling Tian went to the Divine Might Marquis estate again the next day, and he went to see Nye Yuan. Uncle Nye, do you know where my father disappeared all those years ago? Duan Ling Tian went straight to the point and asked. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, Nye Yuan's face went grim. Little Tian, you must not go to that place. Uncle Nye, I'm only curious and don't intend to go there. Duan Ling Tian was speechless, as he never expected that Nye Yuan's reaction would be as intense as his mother's. Of course, he knew that Nye Yuan was concerned about it and didn't have any other intention. Nye Yuan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. It's good that you don't intend to go. Even if a void-prying stage martial artist enters that place, the martial artist might not be able to come out alive. That year, a half-step void stage expert of the Duan clan entered that place, and he vanished into thin air, never to be heard of again, like your father. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He'd found out about this from his mother yesterday. In next to no time, under Nye Yuan's narration, Duan Ling Tian found out about the place that this deadbeat dad had vanished all those years ago. That place was a swamp that was called the Swamp of Death by the people of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Supposedly, fierce beasts could be found everywhere within the Swamp of Death, and there were even many formidable demon beasts existing in the depths of the Swamp of Death. However, the most terrifying part of the Swamp of Death wasn't these beasts, but instead the swamp itself. Once one enters the Swamp of Death, then unless one steps on the ground, one would be utterly unable to notice the existence of the swamp. Many martial artists that entered the Swamp of Death didn't even have the opportunity to go deeper when they fell into the swamp and became the nutrients for the Swamp of Death. The Swamp of Death. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed and was filled with yearning. That Swamp of Death is perhaps a hell that's difficult to fathom for other martial artists. But under my spiritual force, it's instead an even ground that couldn't conceal itself. Even if the naked eye is unable to see through the swamp, but my spiritual force can sense it. This was something that Duan Ling Tian was extremely confident of. In the subsequent 10 days, Duan Ling Tian spent it all accompanying by Li Ro's side. After 10 days, Duan Ling Tian notified Li Ro before leaving the Imperial City. He didn't bring MOU along when he left the Imperial City this time, and he only brought the little gold mouse. In front of Li Ro, he'd said that he was returning to Aurora City to visit some old friends, and Li Ro didn't doubt him. The Swamp of Death was situated at the Fair Sun County that was east of the Imperial City, and it wasn't far from the Imperial City. With the little gold mouse's speed, Duan Ling Tian only spent an hour before arriving in the sky above the Fair Sun County's county city. The Swamp of Death was precisely located in the northern area of the Fair Sun County. Fair Sun County? It seems to be slightly familiar. It's as if I've heard of it somewhere. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart as he sat on the little gold mouse's back and looked down at the Fair Sun County city. He could be sure that he'd never come to the Fair Sun County before, and this was his first time. If I can't remember, then I won't bother thinking about it. Little Gold, go over there. Duan Ling Tian pointed towards the north as he spoke to the little gold mouse that had enlarged herself. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse cried out before her enormous body shook, and she seemed to have transformed into a shooting star that fell towards the northern area of the Fair Sun County city. This is the Swamp of Death. The little gold mouse's speed was extremely swift, and she brought Duan Ling Tian to a vast forest that was serene in next to no time. This forest was in ruins, and it emitted a wave of a gloomy aura. Not only that, there was black mist that coiled in the sky above this forest all year long, enveloping the entire forest within it, causing others to not dare easily enter the air above the forest. After all, no one knew if there were any formidable fierce beasts and demon beasts lying in ambush within the black mist atop the forest. The demon beasts and fierce beasts that grew up here were extremely familiar with the environment here, and an outsider would surely suffer a loss when trespassing into the forest. Little Gold, go down. Duan Ling Tian told the little gold mouse to head down, and he started seriously sizing up the forest before him after he asked the little gold mouse to shrink. Unlike the verdant color of an ordinary forest, the trees in this forest were either pitch black withered trees or dark gray withered trees. The leaves that grew out from these withered trees only had these two colors as well, and it made the entire forest seem exceedingly bizarre. Not a trace of human habitation could be seen around the forest. As expected of the Swamp of Death that even void-prying stage martial artists go pale when speaking about it, it's virtually an isolated place. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart, "Little Gold, let's go in." Duan Ling Tian brought along the little gold mouse to walk into this strange forest, and Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force being maintained extended out as he carefully detected the circumstances in the surroundings. At the beginning, Duan Ling Tian only heard waves of crow cries that were unpleasant to the ear, but he didn't notice a swamp. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse stood on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder. She seemed to be slightly intolerant as she heard the wave of crow cries, and she started crying out sharply as well. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The sharp cry carried origin energy along as it tore through the sky. Instantly, a wave of restless crow cries sounded out. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian had a wave of clamorous sounds of the flapping of wings that gradually moved into the distance. The crow cries stopped abruptly. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse was slightly complacent after driving away the flock of crows, then said to Duan Ling Tian via voice transmission, "Big brother Ling Tian, I'm formidable, right?" Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at the little gold mouse. "It's only a flock of wild beast crows, but look how complacent you are." The little gold mouse's small head drooped down in low spirits when she heard this. Duan Ling Tian continued to walk inwards of the Swamp of Death. After around half an hour, Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force finally sensed the location of the swamp. Duan Ling Tian avoided these swamps and continued inwards. Meanwhile, fierce beasts started to flash out from nearby to launch sneak attacks on Duan Ling Tian. Squeak. However, these fierce beasts didn't even have the chance to approach Duan Ling Tian when accompanied by a sudden cry. Their bodies were penetrated by a tiny sword light, and they were directly killed. The little gold mouse stood on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder, holding the pocket-sized spirit sword in her hand as she sized up the surroundings vigilantly. The more inward we go, the more swamps there are. Unless they've broken through to the void-prying stage, it's extremely difficult for ordinary martial artists to circumnavigate these swamps. Along with walking through the swamp, Duan Ling Tian obtained a certain level of understanding of the Swamp of Death. Of course, he knew that this was only the outer area of the Swamp of Death. That deadbeat dad of mine wouldn't have slipped into one of these swamps, right? Thinking up to here caused Duan Ling Tian to feel a chill run down his spine. If that deadbeat dad of his was really swallowed by the swamp, then he would really be gone. Little Gold, I'll increase my speed of walking inwards. If any demon beast or fierce beast attacks me, deal with them. Origin energy raged on Duan Ling Tian's legs after he told this to the little gold mouse. Squeak, squeak. When he heard the little gold mouse's reply, Duan Ling Tian moved. Whirlwind. As Duan Ling Tian's figure surged, he seemed to have transformed into a gale, and above him, 1,200 and 11 ancient mammoth silhouettes followed to dash out in tow. 7th level nascent soul stage. Elementary wind force. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian headed into the center of the swamp of death at full speed. Whereas the fierce beast he encountered all along the way had become stronger and stronger. However, no matter how formidable the fierce beast was, they were only fierce beasts after all, and they couldn't withstand a blow before the little gold mouse who was a 3rd-level void prying stage demon beast. Roar! Along with Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force tense. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian saw an enormous fierce beast open its bloody mouth as it pounced towards him. This was a mammal fierce beast that possessed an extremely hideous appearance, and Duan Ling Tian was unable to recognize it. Half-step void stage. Duan Ling Tian stopped his footsteps, and his brows raised. When the fierce beast pounced over, 1,500 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky and follow it to flash towards Duan Ling Tian. However, Duan Ling Tian wasn't worried. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse cried out, and a sword light flashed out from the spirit sword in her hand, directly penetrating the head of this half-step void stage fierce beast, causing it to be brought along by momentum to plunge on the ground, and it was completely devoid of any signs of life. Duan Ling Tian sighed emotionally in his heart when he saw this scene. A few years ago, when he still hadn't left the Crimson Sky Kingdom to head to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, an existence at the half-step void stage was an existence that was difficult to surmount to him. But now, it was instead unworthy of mention. The river flows east for 30 years and west for 30 years. These words aren't wrong at all. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and continued to walk into the swamp of death. Meanwhile, he'd slowed down, because he knew that he'd already entered the core area of the swamp of death. There probably were demon beasts in this area. The facts proved that Duan Ling Tian's guess was correct, as after he'd slowly walked for half an hour, a demon beast that was covered in scaled armor flashed out from a nearby swamp, and it seemed to have transformed into a sharp light that fiercely pierced at Duan Ling Tian. In the sky, 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out towards Duan Ling Tian with an imposing aura that shot into the sky like a rainbow. Squeak! The little gold mouse that stood on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder leaped up to transform into a gold bolt of lightning that carried along a wave of the sound of thunder as she moved to intercept this 1st-level void prying stage demon beast that was attacking Duan Ling Tian. Swish! A sword howl tore through the sky and a sword light flashed past to descend onto the scaled armor on the demon beast, and it emitted a wave of ear-piercing sounds of iron colliding. This scaled armor has such strong defense. Duan Ling Tian was shocked. Whereas at the instant that Duan Ling Tian was surprised, the little gold mouse had already attacked with her 2nd sword strike, and it pierced through the stomach of the demon beast, killing it. The scaled armor of this demon beast only didn't protect its stomach. The stomach was its weakest point. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse returned to Duan Ling Tian's shoulder, then sought credit from Duan Ling Tian. Big brother Ling Tian, I'm formidable, right? Even though this demon beast's strength is far inferior to me, the scaled armor on its body is extremely hard. I was actually unable to break through its scaled armor when attacking at full force. Duan Ling Tian's eyes squinted when he heard this, and only now did he notice that besides the injury on the stomach, there wasn't a single mark of injury on the demon beast that was killed by Little Gold. This demon beast. Duan Ling Tian squatted down and looked at the white mark that Little Gold's sword strike left behind on the demon beast's scale, and at the same time, he flashed through the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor. Finally, Duan Ling Tian recognized this demon beast. It's actually a crimson armadillo. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse looked at Duan Ling Tian in wonder. Little Gold, this crimson armadillo is an extremely rare demon beast. Give your spirit sword to me. Duan Ling Tian explained to the little gold mouse and took the little gold mouse's spirit sword. Subsequently, a grade 5 weapon flame blazed on Duan Ling Tian's palm, and he pressed in onto the scaled armor on the surface of the crimson armadillo's body. After 15 minutes, the scaled armor showed traces of melting. After an hour, a segment of the scaled armor was burned off by Duan Ling Tian, and it had transformed into a pool of liquid. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian's hands rose and fell, withdrawing a pile of weapons refinement materials from his spatial ring before melting them into liquid with the weapon flame as well. In the end, Duan Ling Tian used the Crimson Armadillo's scaled armor and the pile of weapons refinement materials to successfully improve the Little Gold Mouse's Grade 6 Spirit Sword to a Grade 5 Spirit Sword. Try it. Duan Ling Tian returned the Spirit Sword to the Little Gold Mouse. The Little Gold Mouse's pair of jade green eyes lit up as she received the Spirit Sword and started swinging it about. Origin energy suffused onto the Spirit Sword. Whoosh! Instantly 4,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared above the Little Gold Mouse. Then another 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared at the side of the existing ancient mammoth silhouettes. In other words, the Grade 5 Spirit Sword in the Little Gold Mouses contained the strength of 6,000 ancient mammoths. 50% amplification. Not bad. Duan Ling Tian nodded in satisfaction. Squeak, squeak. The Little Gold Mouse's green eyes flashed brightly, and she was extremely excited. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian withdrew his own violet myrtle flexible sword, then relied on the scaled armor of the Crimson Armadillo to advance it to the ranks of Grade 5 Spirit Sword. After improving the violet myrtle flexible sword, the amplification was similar to the Grade 5 Spirit Sword in the Little Gold Mouse's hand. It was able to amplify strength by 50%. The scaled armor of this Crimson Armadillo is a good thing. The weapon flame on Duan Ling Tian's hand raged, and it quickly removed the remaining scaled armor from the Crimson Armadillo and put it away in his spatial ring. The scaled armor of this Crimson Armadillo was a special material for refining Grade 5 spirit weapons. Let's go. After dealing with it, Duan Ling Tian brought along the Little Gold Mouse to continue inwards. All along the way, they encounter a few demon beasts, and without exception, they all died beneath the sword of the Little Gold Mouse. Presently, through the amplification of the Grade 5 Spirit Sword, the Little Gold Mouse's strength had reached the strength of 6,000 ancient mammoths. If she were to utilize her half-step advanced lightning force, she would be able to exert the strength of 6,500 ancient mammoths. In terms of strength, her strength was comparably to a 4th-level void-prying stage demon beast that had comprehended half-step advanced force. If a 4th-level demon beast comprehended force that was inferior to the Little Gold Mouse's half-step advanced lightning force, its strength would even be inferior to the Little Gold Mouse. After all, ordinary demon beasts didn't possess spirit weapons. Of course, although demon beasts didn't possess spirit weapons to rely on, some demon beasts with extraordinary natural talent instead possessed an advantage that belonged to themselves. Just like the Crimson Armadillo, the scaled armor on its body was something that even Little Gold was unable to break open when utilizing a Grade 6 Spirit Sword. In the end, it was because Little Gold found its weak point that Little Gold was able to kill it. Squeak, squeak. Duan Ling Tian walked forward all the way, and he only stopped moving when he heard the Little Gold Mouse cry out abruptly.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.